Peter Lick was one of my original inspirations in photography, uh, because he just built this huge business. And even though I fell into art because I couldn't get a job after I got my master's degree, and I was already doing the photography as a hobby, and I was, I would go to his gallery and I would look at the photos because they're good, but really I would just sit there and look at it and be like, wow, he built a freaking 11 galleries around the country, $6 million a year. Like, how do I do that?
The weather is cold, but we're bringing back one of our warm guests. He's someone who came on the show. We had a lights out conversation. I've seen his growth on social media, so I thought it would be a great time to bring him back to that entrepreneur. So, Jason, thanks so much for stopping by.
Hey man, thanks for having me twice.
Yeah,
I
of
feel like I won
course.
something.
Yeah, well, you won another opportunity to connect with a great audience. You had a lot of listeners the first time. I'm sure this won't be the same way here on that Entrepreneur Show. If it's your first time stopping by, I sit down with founders of companies and brands from all around the world. Today's guest has that worldwide brand. He's built it up, and now, again, I've seen him thriving on social media, so I had to bring him back. But Jason, for everyone who missed your first show, and again, it's in the show description, everyone. What are you up to? What kind of business are you running?
So I'm a career artist. I've been a full-time artist since 2012. And then in 2018, I started a program called The Art of Selling Art. And I teach business skills to artists, which is a skill set that is completely ignored in every artist's education. So I've been helping artists build brands, build strategies for selling their art, um, use or implement processes, right, and systems, because they're small businesses, and most of the time they don't realize that. So on both fronts, I cater to two very different audiences on the same topic, and it's been a uh, it's not. Here's what happens. So I create art and I sell art. I create these like big scenes of comfortable isolation, and that's for the entrepreneur. It's for the person whose life is super busy and they need that 30 seconds, 60 seconds to look up from their desk and disappear from the present, right? Or into the present from everything that's to try, right? But then I wake up like days to like today, before I looked at my calendar and realized I was going to talk to you. I wake up on days like today and I'm like, what the I don't know if I can curse here, but like what the heck is the point of my life? You know what I mean? Like what's the point? And but I was able to find a place where I could be of service and help others and help people grow, and when I feel like what's the point with my art stuff, then I can always lean on helping others, and those are the two sides of my business.
I love that, finding your life purpose and helping others. And when you started the art of selling art, was this something that you always wanted to do, or describe how this came about?
No, I didn't always want to do that. Sometimes I don't even want to do it like now. But I, I've I've always been, or I grew into being a teacher. When I was in the military, I kind of graduated into as a subject matter expert in my field and ended up teaching in that. And then when I got out of the military, finished my master's, ended up teaching as well in school. I taught at college level in photography, and then I also substitute taught and ended up being for a year teaching special ed as a co-teacher. And I just kind of fell into the teaching role.
Right.
So, uh, at some point I was like, hey, what am I good at? Like, where do all these things intersect? And entrepreneurship was always in my blood. So I just, put a Venn diagram up. I literally made a Venn diagram and I was like, how do I fit these circles together? And this is how that came to be.
I love it. Well, you may not want to do it every day, but you're damn good at it, and it's great to see your growth. If there's anyone out here, and we'll revisit this at the end, who may need help selling their art, where can they contact you online? How can they see what you do?
If you type my name into Google, you'll find everything. But the art of selling art is the art of selling dot art. is the website for that. And then the website for my personal work is jasonmathias.com.
For your business, do you have to be in person or is this virtual?
Online coaching.
Online
So
coaching.
everything in that program is built on breaking down things I've done for my own career. So it's either a training or a tutorial or a case study, and there's an online community for members and video content for learning.
Thank you for sharing that. Everyone, be sure to go check that out if you are in the art world. Jason, I'd love to pick your brain a little bit. Who is your favorite artist?
It depends. Well, I mean, they're not just one. But if I'm going back in time and picking favorites going, from the beginning, it was Peter Lick was one of my original inspirations in photography, uh, because he just built this huge business. And even though I fell into art because I couldn't get a job after I got my master's degree, and I was already doing the photography as a hobby, and I was, I would go to his gallery and I would look at the photos because they're good, but really I would just sit there and look at it and be like, wow, he built a freaking 11 galleries around the country, $6 million a year. Like, how do I do that? Right. Um, and my art had always wanted to evolve from the landscape stuff, but really early on in my career, I got some really big pickups for my work, and I got kind of pigeonholed, I felt like, into landscape photography. But I always wanted to grow into portraits, and my portrait inspiration in photography was or is Eric Amos. And then if you like follow the timeline of my work, things get very painterly, and Asensio is one of my portrait painter um, inspirations.
Thank you for sharing that. It's always nice to have the audience get to know the guest a little more. If you're someone like me who is not very palated in the art world, what kind of artwork is the gentleman you described? What does he put out?
Asensio is a oil painter. He does nude portraits.
Okay.
They're very
I think I've seen you do that.
yeah, like the art. Like I have a collection called the Aria collection. There's a really interesting way that my landscapes and portraits have um, intersected. I call them environmental nudes, and yeah, like the influences are definitely apparent. Um, and I'm proud of that. I mean, that's how we learn. Yeah.
Thank you for
Inspiration
sharing.
doesn't come in a vacuum. That's what I always say.
Yeah, for me, it's I never know where it's going to strike. It could come at any time, and I try to embrace that and not, force it away. Like if something's on my mind, I let it manifest. It's been a great episode so far. When's the next either art show or when's the next event type thing you have going on? I know you're busy.
Most of everything I do online is online right now.
Okay.
So I feel like, especially after I lost my studio in 2020, the online world just seems to make more sense.
Okay.
Every year I do Art Basel. So if you're in Miami, I'm always there in Miami at the end of the year. If I do a show, I have about 3 weeks to decide. It'll be the Art Expo New York in April.
Okay. Where is that in New York?
Uh, it's
In
like
the
Pier
city?
94, or
Okay.
yeah, it's in the city. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on all this continued success and growth. One more time with where we can find you online.
JasonMathias.com is the place to start. I'm real Jason Mathias on Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you for sharing that. And when you go to Art Basel, what do you usually where do you usually set up? What do you have going on there?
It depends. So when I'm with another gallery, I go to Scope, and or I'm at Red Dot with my own space. So those are my two things, and then just a lot of networking. Like there's no sleep during those days.
You've made away with some meaningful connections out of that weekend.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
100%.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, I hope the next one's even better than the last. And everyone, be sure to check him out online and all the great work he does. We are at That Entrepreneur Show and at Vincent A. Lancy. And with that, we're signing off today from Florida to Washington. Thank you so much, Jason, for coming back.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.